Welcome to the How to Launch Your Life Coaching Practice webinar. So thrilled that you're here with me tonight and with our other guests on the webinar. Here's how this will roll. After a little introduction of who I am and why you might want to listen to me about this particular topic, I'll get into 7 crucial clarities that are so important for a new life coach especially, but really anyone who's doing life coaching. After the 7 crucial clarities, we're going to take a little quiz so that you can see where you are in the process. It'll give you a little bit of a roadmap for your own participation in coaching. I'll introduce some of the barriers and problems that we run into very commonly in the industry and then some possible solutions. So this whole thing is going to take about 50 minutes is what I have planned. So let's jump right in. I have been a psychologist now for 24, almost 25 years. I started out in traditional psychology and psychotherapy. Did that for maybe 12 years or so. And then I had this big moment in my life where I realized, you know what? This is close. This is close to what I'm feeling passionate about and what I really want to do, but it's not quite it. Made a huge transition at that point to positive psychology. To understand positive psychology, if you put your psychological life, your relationships, everything that makes up your psychology on a spectrum or a continuum, clear over here on the left end is the sick end. That's where we have diagnosis, pathology, treatment, all that fun stuff. I'm really more interested in that end. And to understand that, if we go to the middle first, that's health. Health meaning not sick. You'd think that health is the opposite of sick. It just means not sick. You could be sick in bed with a fever throwing up. There comes a time you can get out of bed and you're not sick. But that doesn't mean you're truly fit, thriving, prospering. That's this other end of the spectrum. And that's what lights me up. It was at that point that I made a transition from traditional psychotherapy and the practice of psychology to life coaching. Some of my colleagues think I'm nuts because that feels like a downgrade. Oh, you went from being a professional licensed psychologist to a life coach. Yes, and it's not that I gave up my credential. I am still a licensed psychologist. I still have all of the training and expertise that I had before, but the focus has shifted. I've moved my practice from this end of the spectrum to this end of the spectrum. And there's some good news. In fact, I'll come right back to this toward the end of the webinar. The good news is anybody can get into this. That's also the bad news, as we will discuss going through this webinar. That's why I'm here. I have figured out how to transition from my old job. Now, you just consider whatever your job is, whatever it is you're doing, into a very successful, very productive life coaching practice. And that is exciting. So let's jump in, shall we? You guys ready? If you got your video on, give me a thumbs up. And if not, give me one anyway. And let's launch into this. Now, I want to do this with some visuals. So here we go. All right, we're briefly paused while we get the tech running. Oh, I think I know what happened. Hang on. Here we go. This is the one I want. Okay, beautiful. All right, you should be able to view my screen now. And clarity number 1. So here we go. There's 7 of these, okay? If you're taking notes, leave yourself room to cover 7 crucial clarities that I think every life coach needs to know. Now, I say life coach, I mean any aspect of coaching in which you have some expertise. So keep that in mind as we go through these. Now, the first clarity is why. Why are you doing this in the first place? This is not easy stuff. In fact, I've made a point here that this is not for the weak of heart. There are some specific challenges that come with opening a life coaching practice or launching a coaching aspect to whatever it is that you're offering your clients. Get clear about what it is that's calling you to this work. I had an opportunity a little over a year ago to hear Dr. Sanjay Gupta speak. If you don't know who he is, check him out. He's on CNN. He's a correspondent that reports on health and medical issues. They send him into all kinds of natural disasters, war zones, and he reports back for CNN. He's also a practicing neurosurgeon and a brilliant man. I got to hear him speak on a day when he had boots on the ground in Puerto Rico after the earthquake, or after the hurricane, is what it was in Puerto Rico. He was in Puerto Rico that morning. He was in a Bravanel hall that night speaking to us. That's how fresh this was for him. And during the Q&A, we asked Dr. Gupta, what is the most disturbing thing that you've seen out there? Now, that's a big question for somebody who's seen what he has seen. He didn't even hesitate. He said, it's the unnecessary death. Then he went on to explain, now, we expect people to die in a hurricane, in an earthquake. It's what happens. What's tragic is the people who die after the fact because they don't have access to food and shelter and medical supplies. And even more tragic than that, all of these things exist in containers, on ships, in the port, on the island, but there's no distribution process to get it out to them. After I heard Dr. Gupta speak, I launched a new branch of my practice, which is what we're doing here tonight. I assist other coaches to get the message out, to get the distribution in place that literally saves lives. And I could go on for a while about this because I can name people, except it's confidential and I wouldn't do that. I can name people whose lives have been saved. And at the very least, I believe that principles that are taught by life coaches have the potential to elevate and enhance life. But at the end of that equation is that these principles can save lives. I'm sharing with you part of my why. You've got to have a strong why, because it's going to take that to get through all of the hard stuff that is required. I can't even tell you how many people I know who have started doing coaching and they did it for a little while, or they tried it, or they, kind of tested the waters a little bit, and then they quit. They give up. Why? Well, there's a lot of reasons. I'll come back to those. But it's hard. And if you have a strong enough why, you're going to figure out the how. Without it, we don't even need to have the conversation. What would you give your life for? This is going to sound a little dramatic, but that is quite literally what you're doing. You're trading your life, your precious life energy, for this thing. And that leads us to some of the other clarities. In fact, let's go to the next one. Clarity number 2 is who. Who can you assist? Who can you help? Who is your client? The most common answer I get to this, I just want to help people, Dr. Paul. I want to help everybody. Well, that's nice, but it's not helpful. If you want to help everybody, and honestly, I fall into this trap too, okay? Because that's how I approached all of this. I just want to help everybody. I want to change the world. That makes it almost an impossible task. So we've got to get clear about who it is that we can help. I'm going to throw you a bone here, okay? Because I think if you get clear about who you can help and you start helping them well, then others will naturally be drawn to you and you'll be able to help more people. But you got to pick a lane. The biggest reason for that has to do with marketing. And without getting into the details about that, think about this idea for a minute. Seth Godin wrote a book called Tribes. In fact, I got a copy of it right here. In his book, Tribes, he talks about this concept that there are some people out there who you specifically can help. They are your tribe. Now, as you think about your tribe, this is a small group of people. It's not everybody. It's a small group of people who could uniquely benefit from what you have to offer. And here's the thing. If you don't offer it, they don't get it. Because this is, in fact, your tribe. You get to be the chief of this tribe. Nobody else is going to show up to lead your tribe. And your tribe isn't my tribe. Our tribes might overlap and people might belong to more than one tribe. That's fine. You've got a tribe that you uniquely can serve. Now, another reason it's important to get clear about the who is because this will help you to figure out, okay, where does my tribe hang out? If you go on a safari to Africa, where are you going to go to find the animals? Well, you're going to go where they hang out. Typically, those are the watering holes. That's where you're going to find them. Where does your tribe hang out? And how are they going to find you? This particular clarity is probably the most important thing that you can do to start wrapping your head around a little thing called marketing. These people don't even know you, some of them. So we got to figure out who they are and then where they're gathered. You can see how this could have some practical application. All right, let's get into the next one. For this clarity, we're going to get clear about the what. And we start with that thing that lights you up. What is it that you get so excited about that it actually gets you out of bed? When I started writing my book, my first book, Pathological Positivity, I was getting so excited about this topic that I couldn't sleep. I was consulting with a good friend of mine, Leslie Householder, who is the author of The Jackrabbit Factor. And as I was consulting with her about this writing process, she shared this with me. Sometimes people ask her why she writes books. And her answer is, so I can sleep. That's the level of passion that we're talking about here, about the what. What is your topic? What is this beautiful thing that you have to share with the world? And while we're on this, some people get stuck because they feel like, oh, well, I'm not really an expert. Okay, you don't have to be the expert. You do need to be an expert. So listen to the difference there. You don't have to be the expert. You need to be an expert in whatever that particular topic is. Now, this could come through training. It could come through life experience. There's a lot of ways to get that expertise. Don't get hung up on the fact that you don't know everything. That's actually good news because that allows us to exchange. Ideas versus models. Let me just take a moment on this because another friend of mine, he was on my podcast. His name's Scott Halford. I'm holding his book up in the video window. Activate Your Brain by Scott Halford. Scott shared with me that there are brain-friendly and kind of brain not so friendly approaches. Anybody can have ideas. When you create a model, you've just created something that can stick and that can be shared and that can be copyrighted and that can be sold. Are you following this? So we're taking your brilliant ideas that you want to share with the world and converting them to a model. I've given you an example on the screen of one of my models. This is from my mini book, Portable Positivity. This is the second book that I wrote, and it was for the express purpose of creating a model. You've heard it, right? Just think positive. How many of us have even said that from the stage or to our clients? Just think positive. Well, how is it done? I've created a model. That's kind of cool because that model can be shared and it can be copyrighted and it can be sold. And I can license that model to other people. So having a model sets you apart from a huge population of people who are hanging up their shingle to be a life coach. It gives you something solid that will set you apart from the crowd. Models versus ideas. What models and tools can you provide to your clients? That's an important clarity. And then make it yours. Now, a little disclaimer here. Because what ideas are actually yours? When you think about it, you got your ideas from your experiences, from your mentors, from people that you've encountered, from books that you've read, from seminars you've attended. I love the way Bob Proctor approaches this because he said, I love to brag about my stuff because none of it's mine. And I feel that way a lot because I have built every model that I've built on the shoulders of those who came before me and great ideas that have been around since the beginning of time. Stephen Covey did this. His 7 habits, he didn't make up. Those are ancient principles that he was able to deliver and put into a model that made sense to people. When you create your models, you get to own it. You get to own it. And that's another thing that sets you apart as a coach. I get excited about this one. Let's move on to clarity 4. When? Is now the right time for you? Maybe you've already started. Maybe you're already coaching. Maybe you've been thinking about it for a long time. Maybe you wish you could. People are at different phases of this. You ask yourself, is now the right time? I got to do this again last year when I heard Dr. Gupta speak because I was cruising along with what I was doing, and notice that you get really comfortable doing whatever you're doing. And then you feel nudged or urged or called to some higher calling. Is now the right time for you to do this? How will you know when you're ready? Just a little nugget here from the experience of DrPaul. I like to launch things before I'm ready. That stretches me, and it's risky and it's scary. But how are you going to know that you're ready? When you feel comfortable, guess what? You're not going to feel comfortable doing something new. There are psychological prohibitions to that. So don't wait until you feel comfortable. Don't wait until you feel completely ready. It's okay to feel like, I don't have everything in place yet. And then you take steps, and I'll share some solutions with you here in just a minute. You take steps that help you to accomplish what needs to be done next. So how are you going to know? And if not now, when? And if not you, who? Your tribe is your tribe. No one else is going to step up to lead them. This is a place where in my personal coaching with other coaches, particularly, I get to push them a little bit to move the when up. If not now, when? And if not me, who? So just ask yourself those questions a little bit. Let's get clear about the when. When is this going to happen? Clarity number 5, where? All right, now we're getting very practical. If you are going to be coaching people, where are you going to do that? I'm sitting here in my office. Those of you who can see the video, you can see I'm sitting I got a couch. I'm a shrink. I got a couch. I got a chair. I've set this up in a comfortable environment so that I can do coaching here. I would not do coaching in my kitchen unless I were a cook or I had some kind of domestic thing that I was trying to share with people. I want to have a setting that's appropriate for the kind of coaching that I do. If you're a health coach, that opens up some possibilities that I probably wouldn't use. So just consider the context of what kind of coaching you're doing with people and where are you going to do that? Where will you interact with your clients? Now, here's some good news too. You can create a virtual office. You can take a little corner of your house, for example, and set it up within the frame of your video screen, of your camcorder, to look very professional. And nobody that you're coaching has to even know that you're at home. As far as they're concerned, it's your office. You can create a virtual office. I had one day this week where I had 6 hours. That's a heavy day for me in terms of face-to-face sessions. I had 6 hours of private personal coaching, and I was the only person who walked through that door. All of my sessions were held right here where I'm holding this webinar. This is something that wasn't even available when I started my practice. And it is available to you. So consider this space where we're meeting right now as a potential virtual office. Video conferencing has come to the point where there are no boundaries now. You can have a worldwide impact and audience here. So consider creating a virtual office. Here's another aspect of where. And this is shifting gears a little bit to your own mental space. Where does this fit in your life and in your calendar? You're already busy, aren't you? And if you're like me, which you probably are, you get busy doing what you're doing and you keep doing what you're doing. And it's hard to figure out, where am I going to put something new? Where does this fit in your life? Do you have people in your life who support your dream, what it is that you want to do? There's various answers to that. If your answer is, no, my family doesn't support me, my spouse doesn't support me, I don't have anybody. Okay, when we know what we need to work on, because where this fits in your life is really important. And if it comes in conflict with all kinds of other things, then you get to work on that as part of launching or creating your opportunity to serve people in this way. Where does it fit in your calendar? If you are already working a full-time job and you're considering, well, I would really like to do this instead, there's a transition period, and I would not recommend that anybody just quit their day job and start coaching until you've got some of these clarities nailed down. That is very risky. As you get more clear about these 7 clarities, then you can start to see where it's going to fit in your calendar. And I do this full time. It's all I do. I'm here all day, every day, doing what I do. And I used to do other things. So there's always a transition. Where does this fit in your life and in your calendar? Now let's go to clarity number 6. This one trips people up. How am I going to do this? The first aspect of how has to do with your platform and your presentation skills and the tools that you bring to the coaching equation. And it's fine to start from wherever you are. Developing a way to deliver these services and these principles to other people sometimes implies that you get a little bit of coaching yourself, or that you join a group or an organization that helps you to put the business structure in place, or that helps you to become a better public speaker, or that gives you an opportunity to do some marketing and how you get in front of people. In fact, that's another aspect of how. Have you built systems for marketing and sales? You know what, I'm just going to admit it because I'm a little ashamed about this, but until about a month ago, I thought of marketing and sales as the same thing. I always put them together. It's marketing and sales. Marketing, sales, and marketing, right? It's not the same thing. There are very different strategies and there are different systems that you get to build for that. And I learned that through engaging a coach of my own. I hired Amy Walker, who's a brilliant business coach, flew out to Atlanta, spent 3 days with her, and she kicked my butt a little bit about the systems that I get to build, of which this webinar is one. So you get the coaching that you need to put the systems and the processes in place. And it's not just for the business end, because you have to have the processes for your client. What are your products, your services, your packages, your prices? These are all important clarities, and they're not easy. This is simple, what I'm sharing with you. It's not necessarily easy. And this is why a lot of people quit, because they feel like they don't have those things in place. So let's just acknowledge, yeah, we need to get clear about that. That's one of the things that is important in order to actually deliver this kind of a service. So get clear about the how. All right, now we've got one more clarity. I saved this one until last. It may well be one of the most important ones. I don't know, the others are really important too. They're all crucial, okay? This clarity number 7, is about ethics. Ethics and morals. The only hesitation I had going into a life coaching practice from my busy psychotherapy practice is the reputation that coaching has out there in the greater community. Why is this true? Because there are idiots out there peddling crap. I'm sorry to be so blunt about that, but it's true. Do you remember how I said that anybody can get into this? Which is good news, because that opens doors for us. It also inundates the market with things that are just not valuable, with misguided principles or tools. And I know that's a judgment call, but look around and you'll see that this is true. It is so important to get clear about the limitations to your coaching practice, and then practice within the scope of your expertise. I am a clinical psychologist. I am a licensed psychologist. I have a dozen years of specifically clinical practice, and another dozen years on top of that of the life coaching and positive psychology practice. That gives me a scope of expertise that I can practice within. Here's a place where people get into trouble. And I remember a story that came out years ago as I was just starting my coaching practice of someone who was practicing therapy without a license. I mentioned that specifically because this is just an example. You can't go practice brain surgery. That's a licensed activity too. You cannot go practice dentistry unless you are specifically licensed by the Division of Occupational and Professional Licensing in your state to do that area of practice. For a life coach, it is extremely important to draw lines around the things that are licensed activities, and I mean licensed by the state. And you may not cross those lines. If you do, you can be prosecuted. You can go to jail. You can be fined. This is extremely important to be clear about. What are the limitations? And then you practice within the scope of your expertise. I currently license coaches. It's part of what I'm doing with this aspect of my practice, and that's why I wanted to share this information with you. The coaches who are licensed in my models and my methodologies are not, I repeat, are not practicing therapy. They may not diagnose and treat mental illness. That is a licensed activity. I can do that as a licensed psychologist. I don't do that currently because I'm practicing life coaching right now. That's just one example, but I can't even emphasize strongly enough the importance of this particular clarity. You get really clear about what the limits are. And if you need some help with that, please consult. Let's talk for just a moment about plagiarism and intellectual property rights. A lot of people, including myself, have spent their careers creating models, processes, things that are so important to actually building a business out of your life coaching practice. You may not use someone else's material without their permission. Even with their permission, there are certain limitations. My licensees, for example, are licensed to use my models, like what I shared with you earlier, the model, the positivity model, for example. I've got several others that they are licensed to use because they have gone through a certification process with me and they have obtained legal permission to do that. I have chosen to grant them license to use that material. If you do not have a license to use someone's material, don't do it. This can open you up to liability. At the very least, it exposes you as a pirate. And I see this a lot of times. I speak a lot. I'm a professional speaker. And if I hear a speaker share some other speaker's story from the stage, and I know that speaker, I immediately can identify that person as a pirate. So do not steal someone else's material. You can use it if you've got permission. And I mean specifically legal permission to use their material. Otherwise, you'd be very careful with it. You develop models and stories of your own. Come up with your own stories. You've got great stories. Another aspect of ethics, I think, is service. Providing pro bono and giving back. This is what you do for free. I do what I do for a living. It's how I keep peanut butter on the table. And I look for opportunities to give back. There's a lot of important reasons to do that, including business reasons. But I'll just throw that in there with the ethics part. And those are our 7 clarities. Did you catch all of those? So let's do a little assessment. Now, each of you, unless you're driving or something, I don't know why you drive while you're listening to a webinar, but if you're in a safe place to do this, please grab a tablet or your device or a piece of paper, because I want you to each just do a little self-assessment on these 7 clarities. So you're going to give it a score from 0 to 5. 0 means I strongly disagree with the statement. 5 means I strongly agree with the statement. And just see where you are in these different areas. It'll help us to know where we're starting. Statement number 1, I am clear about my why. Give that a little rating. Strongly disagree to strongly agree. Use any number between 0 and 5. Then keep track, because you're going to add up all your numbers here in just a minute. There's just 7 of them. Number 2, I am clear about who I can best serve and how to find them. At this point, if you're thinking, I just want to serve everybody, I just want to help people, then that's going to be a low number, okay? I am clear about who I can best serve and how to find them. And don't worry about what your ratings are. This is just to take the temperature, and it's just for you. It is completely for you. I am clear about what I have to offer and have a sales strategy. This includes things like how you structure your services, what your pricing strategy is, what models you're using. Number 4, I am clear about when I will launch and have systems in place. I always chuckle a little bit about this one because I always launch just before I'm ready, which is a fun stretch for me. Okay, number 5, I am clear about where I will interact with my clients. And again here, think physical space. That's something that trips people up sometimes. So see where you are on your clarity about where you will interact with your clients. And that number may have changed because I introduced the possibility of a virtual office. So if that helps, then you can consider that. Let's go to the next one. I am clear about how I will market and deliver my services. 0 to 5. Got one more. I am clear about the ethics and limits around my coaching. All right, so look at the screen, make sure you've got a rating 0 to 5 on each of those, and then quickly sum up your numbers. And we'll take a very scientific approach to what this means. Here's how we're going to score it. If you scored 0 to 7, you're in a category that I would call an introductory coach. This is a brand new idea for you. You're really needing to get more information and do some self-reflection to clarify any of these 7 points. You might be really strong on one, but not so strong on the other 6. Or you might be very low on all of them or whatever. Okay, but this is an introductory phase. If you scored 8 to 14, I would call you a considerational coach. I don't even know if that's a word, but I'm a psychologist. We make up words that makes us feel smart. A considerational coach is considering coaching, but lacking clarity in most of those areas. Probably what you need is some coaching and direction. If you scored 15 to 21, I would label that an aspirational coach. You've given it some serious thought. This is something you are really strongly thinking about. You're probably needing support, structure, education, processes, proven systems. If you scored in the next range, 22 to 28 is what I call the emerging coach. You've hit a point where this is really a valid option for you. You can create a lot of value for your tribe, and you need proven systems, accountability. You may be trying to find the courage to actually do it and some support to do it. There might be some fears about, ooh, am I going to mess somebody up if I do this? Can I really make a living doing this? That's what I'm calling the emerging coach. And then above 28, 29 to 35 is the established coach. This is in your blood. It's what you do. It's who you are. And you're looking to refine the processes about what you do, add power through systems and relationships, masterminding, mentoring. These all come in at the established level. And I've worked with coaches who are leaders in their field, in their industry, and they want to refine and hone what it is they're offering or make more money doing it. And that's what kicks in at this level. Okay, so just note wherever you are and see how that feels. There's something that you can do at any of these levels. Now, I promised you I would talk about some of the barriers to entry. These are the problems that we see in the coaching industry. The first one I've already mentioned twice. Anyone can do this. That is great news. And that's awful news. Now I'm the positivity guy, you know that. So we'll just call it great news because it opens up some doors for us. It also inundates the field with inadequate, short-sighted interventions. People can get hurt, especially if they're practicing outside of their area of expertise. So coaching has a little bit of a bad reputation in some circles. Now, there are excellent, powerful coaches out there. I hire coaches of my own. I've spent thousands of dollars just this year on my own coaching. It is so essential, and there are excellent, wonderful coaches available. But remember, anyone can do this. This is both good and bad news. Now, and I listed it as a problem because that's one of the barriers to entry. I had to overcome that myself because it didn't feel as legitimate to be a life coach as it is to be a professional psychologist. Well, I get to be both. So there you go. Now, there's a lot of people out there who have all kinds of passion. They're fired up about this, but they don't have a process or the content to assist their clients. And that is a barrier to entry, especially if there's only ideas and not models. Another barrier is the lack of training or credentials. Now, here's the good news. You don't have to have a PhD. You don't have to be a licensed anything to do this. Having said that, you do need to be an expert, not the expert. And you can tap into other processes or systems that are already established. There's many available. You'll see people all the time. I'm a certified John Maxwell coach. I'm a certified 3 Key Elements coach. I'm a certified Live on Purpose coach. That's the one that I'm offering. So there's lots of different options there. You don't have to have the training or credentials if you can tap into something that's already been built. You don't have to reinvent the wheel on everything. And you still get to bring your personality to the table. It is hard to transition from a job, full-time employment, for example, to your own business and to own your business. That's not easy, and it strikes fear into the heart of many. There are a lot of possibilities, and you can handle the considerations, but that is absolutely a barrier to entry. And then the risk of getting in over your head. And this really scares people. It should. It absolutely should. This is sacred ground. When you start to talk to people about their relationships, their life, their career, things that are near and dear to them, and they're willing to pay you money for it, that is sacred space. And we have to take that seriously. Now, there is a risk of getting in over your head, so you have to be able to judge when is the right time to refer. If you're not a licensed therapist or counselor, you probably don't want to be dealing with suicidal clients or people who have severe addictions. Now, if you're an addictions counselor, fine, knock yourself out. Let's go for it. We got to be careful around that stuff. So know what your limits are. Now, there are some solutions, but I think after we did the quiz, you're going to see about where you are. Here's a couple of important questions that I think you get to ask as you consider coaching or as you look at where you are with your coaching. The first one is a moral issue for me. Who is missing out on what I have to offer because I'm not ready yet? These are people in your tribe, remember, and they don't get it unless you bring it, because you're the only one who can. It's your tribe. I'll bring my tribe everything that I can, but my tribe's not your tribe. I'm talking about your tribe. That's why we got to get clear about the who. And they are missing what you have to offer if you're not offering it. It's an important question to ask yourself. And I hope that some of these questions create just a little bit of angst for you. There's a reason why you're on this call in the first place. And if you've got enough of a calling to show up on this webinar, then I think this is an important question for you to be asking. Let's look at the next one. What is it costing me to stay where I am? And I want you to consider several levels of cost. I make a good living coaching. If I were not doing this, I would not be making that good of a living. Now, there's that cost. So I want you to consider that. But I also want you to consider the emotional cost as you consistently return to your dreams, to what you feel called to do. What is it costing you emotionally, spiritually, in terms of your relationships? Where are you with that? We'll connect with that. Here's the next one. How long will it take me to get where I want to go on my own? which is totally an option. And I did that for years, and then I figured out, oh, this goes a lot faster if I engage people who know what they're doing. Which leads us to some possible solutions. Now, I don't have all the answers for you. I'm not going to pretend to have all the answers for you. Is it time for you to take courageous action? Only you can answer that question. If you are ready for that, there are supports in place for you to do that. Now, what am I offering? You knew that I was offering something because this is a webinar. Here's what I'm offering. I am offering a one-on-one personal strategy session. I will not charge you for that for a couple of reasons. I am invested in my why, which is to help you get out of your way and start delivering those life-saving principles to people I can't reach. That is a distribution process for me. I am willing to offer this one-on-one strategy session free of charge to you. Now, it's going to cost me something, and it's going to cost you your time. Here's what we're going to do in that session. We will assess where you are personally in your journey toward having a powerful life coaching element in what you offer to your clients and your tribe, even if you're not offering it yet. Okay, we'll get an assessment of that. That's fine. We will clearly see at the end of that strategy session what steps you can take immediately to move toward that next level of providing coaching services. Now, how do we know if you're a good fit for this strategy call? Here's who I've found will benefit the most from that strategy session with me. You have a sincere desire to help people in meaningful ways. I think the fact that you're here shows that you are. That's what you do. People who benefit the most value having proven systems and tools to use with their clients. We are moving beyond the ideas and into the models. People who will value this strategy session the most are ready to explore the viability of actually becoming a coach. Please do not waste your time or mine if this is not something you're seriously considering. I can help you with it. If you're not on that track, that's fine. There's other things that we can plug you into, but this is who's going to benefit most from the strategy session. You may already have an audience or a following of people who want more from you. They want more of that. And you can offer that through some coaching. And they are ready to invest in their ability to serve their clients. The word invest sometimes makes people nervous. Don't even worry about the money part of this right now. We'll figure out how to answer that. I'm talking about, are you willing to invest your precious life energy in this? That's the most important piece. And if you're ready to do those things, if that sounds like you, I've got a limited number of those strategy sessions available. Let's find a time that works for you. Now you see a link there. I'm going to post this into the chat. Let's see if this works. Okay, that link is in the chat window. If you want to just click on that, it will open up my calendar. You will see as you open it, there are days that are available. There are days that are unavailable, especially as we're getting into the holidays. So you can consider that. But when you click on a day that you would like to consider, you'll see certain spots that are available for these strategy sessions. And the only access that people have to this calendar is through this webinar. That's why I'm offering it to you. When you schedule with me, lock that time in on your calendar. And you'll get a little email reminder too through the scheduling system. But lock that in on your calendar because I'm not doing anything else that hour. My focus will be on you and on getting clear about where you are in this process and what's next for you. So I will lock it in on my calendar. Do me the courtesy of doing the same on yours. Take that seriously because I'm busy. But this is something that's important to me, and I will be honored to have that conversation with you. I'm so pleased that you're here. Thank you for showing up. I look forward to interacting with you in other ways and continuing your journey on launching your life coaching practice. Thanks for being here, everybody.